Was rock royalty, the elder statesman of Australian music. The industry left saddened and in shock at the news of his death. The 60-year-old passed away with his family by his side. They've thanked the public for all their well wishes through the rock star's distraught manager.
Billy Thorpe was one of the most incredibly powerful, strong people that I've ever met. And he gave everything in his performances, in his songwriting, in his relationship with his public, with the fellow musicians.
English-born Billy Thorpe moved to Australia with his family in the 1950s. He couldn't get enough of music. Playing his first gig, aged 10, he quickly became a child star before transforming himself from pop star to rock star in a career that spanned 5 decades.
Most people I know think that I'm crazy.
He found fame with the band Billy and the Aztecs, which had a string of hits in the 1960s and 70s. He was the driving force behind the music documentary Long Way to the Top in 2002. He's also written 2 autobiographies and was working on a new record. Fellow rock icons say he was an inspiration.
He walked on stage and he was there. He felt good. There was people that walk on stage and they might as well lean on the piano and sing, but and be a band singer. Bill was not like that. He walked on. He had a charisma about him, and he worked hard. He sang hard.
Billy was much more than a part of our industry. He was really a cornerstone of our history. He was a catalyst for so many things.
He's also been remembered for his compassion.
He was a wonderful contributor to the music industry, supported Support Act. He helped organise benefit concerts when Pete Wells from Rose Tattoo was very sick and later passed away. And he also had a real vitality and dynamism as a muso. He was an incredible singer, a really, really fine, loud guitar player. And I don't know, I think he's going to be very, very sorely missed.
The Prime Minister also paid tribute to a giant of the music industry.
He was a very distinctive figure in rock. He was a very capable guitarist, and the character of his music was peculiarly Australian.
Bridie Barry, Sky News.
This Sunday afternoon.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding as we observe 1 minute silence and remember Billy Thorpe. Please be seated.
Billy Thorpe was the greatest rock vocalist, musician and entertainer Australia has ever known. His career spanned 50 years, over 6 decades. He was the inspiration of generations of musicians and fans alike. No one had more power, more energy, or more balls than Billy. He excelled at everything he did, and he could blow anyone in the world off the stage. Time never wearied him, and he stayed contemporary to the last. His generosity of spirit for his fellow man was a constant source of amazement. He was the field marshal of Australian rock and roll. Billy Thorpe was a legendary human being, and he'll be forever missed by all those whose lives he touched during his 61 years on Earth.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Reverend Bill Cruz.
We are all here to celebrate the life and mourn the passing of Billy Thorpe, a life which has touched so many people so deeply in many different ways. And it's true to say he's going to live in all of our hearts forever. Now, each one of us has come here to, in our own way, say goodbye, God bless and thank you to Billy for the time God gave him to spend with us on this earth. Each one of us here is different, and each one of us has our own beliefs and our own outlooks. No matter what, though, no matter what, we believe that God has a very special place in his heart for rock and rollers. This means we have come here to say goodbye and thank you in our own unique way. This means our goodbyes will not be in a set out or a prescribed way, but will be straight from the heart. Real, passionate, spontaneous, loving, honest, and probably a bit loud and a bit irreverent. But that's the way we are. But that does not mean each one of us is not hurting, and praise God will keep him safe in the next stage of his journey. We pray also that God will be especially close at this time to his family, his wife Lynn and daughters Lauren and Rusty. And remember, guys, Jesus said, "Blessed are they who mourn, for they shall be comforted." Well, beneath all that is to happen this evening, we are deeply mourning his passing and pray that God will comfort, strengthen and guide us through this time. And we'll all catch just a glimpse of the music the heavens sung, that the heavens sung with when God created us all. Amen.
Religions and your creed.
Right up until last Monday, Billy Thorpe was doing what he loved best: performing, songwriting and recording. One of the last songs he ever recorded was thankfully captured on film. It was a very personal tribute to his mother, written for his as-yet unreleased Tangiers album.
Forget your dogmas, your religions and your creeds. Forget your mantras and your own. There are no methods to this crazy life we lead. No secret paths to walk upon. Just hang love's portrait in the cathedral of your heart and warm the landscape of your soul, so that seeds a child can reap and smile if we should ever meet. 'Cause just like you, I'm all alone. Since you've been gone, I really miss you. Your arms around me wherever I fall from grace. Since you've been gone, can't go home, but deep down inside you, you'll find the light to guide you, and a gentle voice to lead you home. Since you've been gone, I really miss you. Your arms around me whenever I fall from grace. Since you've been gone, I miss your blue eyes, ever to guide me whenever I lose my way.
Ladies and gentlemen, Brian Brown.
I wanted to be Billy Thorpe. I thought if any bloke can put out a record and go to number one and he just repeats mashed potato over and over, saying yeah over and over after it, the guy's got to be a genius.
Yep. Like most blokes from the suburbs, I wanted to be Billy Thorpe. I never knew Billy in those early days of rock and roll. I just got to enjoy him from a distance, like in the front of a television set or standing in the back of a concert hall. And it wasn't until a number of years later in the early 80s that I got to meet Billy and his wife Lynn and the girls, Lauren and Rusty. And over the past 20 years, I've had the opportunity to enjoy his company on many, many occasions. He was as much a listener as he was a talker. And he was someone that was sensitive to the world around him, even though he was blunt with his opinions. When Billy and his family came back to Australia in the late 90s, he was really interested and hungry for what this country had become, a country he hadn't lived in for a few years. In 1999, there was going to be a referendum for Australia to become a republic. Billy talked about it, thought about it, and he reckoned he knew what he thought about it, what it should be. I mentioned one day that Thomas Keneally had a bunch of us climbing up to the top of Mount Kosciuszko, and we were going to hang the Republic flag up there. And Billy said, "Can I come too?" A couple of weeks later, mid-July, we took the chairlift to the top of Thredbo. Billy and I had taken skis with us. He hadn't skied in 15 years and I'd had a couple of lessons. We left the skis in the bar at the top of Thredbo and we put on some snowshoes. Along with Tom and them, we started our 4 or 5 hour trudge up to the top of Mount Kosciuszko. Now there was a blizzard on and it was a whiteout and you couldn't see an inch in front of you. And in fact, 3 young men got lost that day there and they were found a number of months later and we probably passed them on the way. After a while, the guides said to us, "Listen, you got to go back." Billy said, "Not a chance." So we kept going. Well, we didn't get to the top of Mount Kosciuszko. We finally did have to turn back. But it was a great adventure. We got back to the bar at the top of Thredbo, had a few beers, waved goodbye to the others as they got the chairlift down, put on our skis, and off we went. Well, it had got worse. And we couldn't see each other. We didn't know which way was down. We couldn't hear each other. And eventually we separated. I somehow stumbled into a path that got me down to the bottom. And I stood there for about 20 minutes wondering whether I should inform someone or what. And then all of a sudden, through the snow came this bloody big grinning bloke. And it was Billy. And he said, "Mate," he said, "I fell down there and I got up and I fell down again." And he said, "And I lay down in the snow," and he said, "Then I started to like it." And he said, "Then I thought, Jesus, I don't want to die here." So we went back to had dinner that night and had a few more beers and talked about it and laughed about it. But I know that day meant something to Billy. He was back in Australia and he was going to be a part of it. If only he knew how big a part he was of it already. I look forward to arriving in that place that we sometimes don't think exists, but at times like these, you sure does. And see that grinning face come walking up to me, saying, "Jesus, what kept you, Brownie?" And then we'll have a hug, we'll go off and we'll get a couple of beers, and we'll shuffle through the next millennium. Love you, Billy.
Well, here we are in beautiful downtown King's Cross. It's changed a lot since I was a kid, but believe it or not, this is when my career really started. It started just over there in a place called Surf City. Ray Brown and the Whispers started out of there. The Easy Beats played there a lot. The Missing Links. Sadly, it's gone. Like so many other things in Australian popular music, they pulled it down.
Ladies and gentlemen, George Negus.
G'day. Now, Lynn and the girls and Chuggy have asked me to say a few words. I guess as a simple working journalist, a mate of Billy's, an ex-Brisbane boy like Billy. I grew up at the same time as Bill. You know, another part of Brisbane, but the same town, and we survived to tell the tale. And I guess they've also asked me as a tone-deaf rock music lover. I mean, given my quite embarrassing lack of musical aptitude, if Bill were here with us today, and who among us doesn't think that he is? I mean, come out now, you bastard. And we're all to break into Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Bill would, with a glass of ice cubes in his hand, I suspect, would probably gently but very firmly suggest to me, "Here, Negus, suck on these things in 4/4 time, that way you can't cause too much trouble." It reminds me of a time that we were with Bill and Lynn and the girls at Jack Thompson's place, which for some obscure reason we found a pretty nice thing to do. And my kids, my oldest, was playing very bad bass with a bunch of session musos. And he came to me at one point in the evening and he said, "Who's the little blonde guy that just played with us?" And then I said, "That's Billy Thorpe." He said, "Who the hell's Billy Thorpe? He can play a bit and sing." I said, "Billy Thorpe and the Aztecs." I think, how the hell do you explain to a kid who's about 11 or 12, Billy and the Aztecs? I said, sort of like, I don't know, the Rolling Stones of Australia. And he said, "Who the hell are the Rolling Stones?" So I gave that up. He said, "Why were they called Billy Thorpe and the Aztecs?" I said, "I think there must have been a couple of South Americans in the band or something." And I went to Billy And I said, Billy, my kid just said, who the hell's Billy Thorpe? He thought that was absolutely hilarious, laughed his head off. I said, and he asked why you were called Billy Thorpe and the Aztecs. And I told him I thought there were a couple of South Americans in the band. He said, you know, I haven't got a bloody clue why we were called Billy Thorpe and the Aztecs. A bit of history written off just like that. But Chuggy said to me, think about the life, or talk about the life and times of Billy if you can, mate. I mean, holy shit. I mean, is that a daunting assignment or what? I mean, how the hell do you pull together Billy's 60-year rise to greatness, his 5 decades on the way to the top, his 4 decades at the top? Well, let's have a go. Let's call it a potted but pointed recollection. Well, one of the few Australians, if you ask me, in any field who should carry that frighteningly overworked and bloated label, legend. But that's what Billy was. Born a Manchurian in 1946, an Australian and a Brisbaneite by the time he was 9, the country's youngest ever rock and roller at 11, and why the hell are we not surprised? A Sydney-sider and the Aztecs' lead singer at 17, first hit single, Blue Day, at 18, first hit single. 4 singles in the top 20 at the same time, including Poison Ivy. Billy's about the only person that's got not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but about 15 signature tunes, of which Poison Ivy is one. A TV Logie Award winner at 19. At 22, his own TV show with a very Billy title, It's All Happening. 1972 was a big year for Bill and the country. Everybody I know was battling with It's Time for the national anthem. Billy vying with Gough for #1 Australian. Billy won because he might have been smaller than Gough, but he was a hell of a lot louder. 72 was also Aztec Madness year at Moomba and, of course, Sunbury, where a rampant Billy would have been crowned King of Australia, as Brian said, had he not been a Republican. 1976 was a hell of a year, a wrench year for Bill and the family. It took off for the bloody US. 3 more top 40 albums in no time flat. A couple of dramatic career flips. He became a techno freak, amongst other things. And somehow, music reared its wonderful head again. The band Zoo came into existence, and Billy played, of course, with Mick Fleetwood, that other genuine legend of the music land. In 1991, still in absentia, Billy joins the ARIA Hall of Fame, and how the hell could he not? There would be no Hall of Fame without Billy in it. It would be a total fraud. In 1996, 2 things happened that we didn't expect. After 20 years in the States, Bill and the family came home. In the same year, John Howard, after being beaten by Andrew Peacock for the leadership of the Liberal Party, which is something I wouldn't have thought you could do unless you're deliberately trying, somehow did his own form of Lazarus and became Prime Minister of Australia. I'm not going to embarrass you, this is an election year, by asking you to put up your hand and tell me which one of those 2 events you think were more important, Billy coming home or John Howard being elected Prime Minister, but I think I know what most of you probably feel. But what I thought was amazing, I don't know about you, but I don't know where those 20 years went, because it never seemed as though he left us. By the time he got back, 2 damn decades, it was like Billy had always been here, because that's the impact Billy had. But back home, he made no mistake and got stuck straight back into everything and anything that he could possibly do to make his mark on this country. The 2000 Paralympics opening ceremony with Yothu Yindi, which must have blown him away. 3 years later, the tsunami benefit. And all this, of course, Brownie's told his booze tale. We've all got booze tales where Billy's concerned. All of this interspersed with just a few quiet drinks at Jack's 5 or 6 day birthday parties, 5 or 6 day New Year's Eve parties. That way you had no bloody excuse whatsoever for not turning up. But we had to have 5 or 6 days. We had a lot of rewriting of history to do. We had a lot of predicting about the future of the human race to do. Small-time shit like that we talked about. And most recently, of course, Morocco and Tangier, fingers crossed, which we're all holding our collective breaths to hear. And of course, long way to the top. Bill's brilliantly inspired idea that said it all in one incredible musical extravaganza. I was lucky enough to see the final Long Way to the Top at the Rod Laver Arena in Melbourne with Lynn. A memorable night. At the end of the evening, Chuggy, in his own inimitable impresario fashion, had marched onto the stage after Bill had played Long Way to the Top to announce, as only impresarios can, "Thank you, Melbourne. Thank you, Australia. We love you. It's a long way to the top." And Billy was was still standing there, wouldn't move. And he turned to Chuggy and he said, "Piss off, Chuggy, we haven't finished yet." I think the only way they got Bill off the stage that night, Michael, was to press the button and the stage revolved around and Billy disappeared. But I think if it was Bill's idea, we all know that Long Way to the Top, and I think while Long Way to the Top can be pressed, can turn into CDs, can be shown on television again, Bill will still be with us. I know this has not really been the life and times of William Thorpe, Esquire. More like a pretty, given the time, we've got a rapid flashback of the, how can you put it, the indelible impact of the man, of his music, of his mind. The impact that he had on a nation and its culture. The impact of a truly exceptional human being. We could go on. Boy, how we could go on. But two final words, I think. One from a blog. I think Bill would probably like that. Being an habitual researcher, with the help of my partner Kirsty, we found some lovely stuff. I mean, if you're wondering what the people of this country think about Bill, jump online. I mean, there are a lot of stupid uses for the internet, but I think this is a pretty reasonable one. Some unbelievable things. I don't think I've seen in all my time so many absolutely positive, wonderful things said by people who Bill would never have met, but felt they knew him. So we found one, posted by Debbie Charlesworth the morning that we got that news that we didn't really want to get about Bill. "What can I say?" she said. "He was the epitome of Australian rock and roll. He made our music industry what it is today. He gave us his all and had a heart of gold. His music spanned generations and influenced lives. Australia and the world will be a quieter place without him. And that's not a good thing. We will miss your heart and the music you put into it. Thinking of your wife and 2 children at this sad time. Thank you to them for sharing you with the world." And then from the man himself. He's got a rather magical website that we should all have a look at. If you haven't, please do it. But we found this yesterday on Bill's website. "Today is the tomorrow you worried about yesterday." How bloody Billy is that?
Being a pop star in the 60s had some very enjoyable side benefits.
We were getting mobbed wherever we went, clothes torn off, thousands of people waiting at airports, naked girls in beds wherever we went. I mean, waiting in hotels. It was craziness.
You know, it was being chased down the street. It was being getting your clothes ripped off. It was fantastic. It's how it was.
Not only were the fans after him, but some of our stars as well.
And I had a crush on Billy Thorpe, but I couldn't get to Billy Thorpe. Can you imagine? Anyway.
Ladies and gentlemen, Chrissy's cousin, our own little Paddy.
There's only one person I know apart from me that might need that, but I'll go without it, thank you. Billy was 17 when I first met him. I was 14. We were just a couple of kids, really. We were backstage at Surf City, getting ready to do our shows. I was very quiet and very nervous. I'd hardly done any shows, but Billy had done lots of shows. Even then, I knew he was special. A great singer, a great guitarist, a great performer with, well, a healthy amount of attitude. Maybe just a bit more than a healthy amount. Yet, through all that, he managed to make me feel better when, just as I was walking on stage, he yelled out, "You can do it, little one. Just go out there and kick them in the guts. They'll love you." That was Bill. And so began our friendship. I didn't see him for years when he was overseas, but in 1998, we were part of a small group of pioneer rockers recognised by Australia Post, who issued stamps in our honour. Billy and I had our first long conversation in years. It was terrific. We spoke, of course, about our families and the music business and how wonderful it was to have such occasions like the stamp launch, where musicians and performers so proudly celebrated our work, the work we love so much. Billy did have a strong sense and understanding of the history of Australian rock and roll. It wasn't just about him. He knew all about it, and he understood it too. He understood its place in history, and he knew it, and he thought it should be up there. Sometimes it was. "I'd love to get us rockers together," he said, "and put on the greatest rock and roll show ever." And just a few years later, his dream came true. The one George told you about. His baby, his idea, Billy's idea, Long Way to the Top, was born, and what a show it was. I think some of you might have been to that show. I can see baby boomers everywhere. Billy Thorpe didn't have any off nights. Every Thorpe performance was one of commitment and conviction. Every single night he raised the roof. Many people have said to me, "Gee, I bet you all had a lot of wild parties on that Long Way to the Top tour." Well, there were a few parties, but they were only a little bit wild. These days, instead of comparisons between bourbon and scotch, actually, I've got a secret, there are conversations discussing the merits and benefits of Twining's tea compared to Lipton's tea. You see, we'd all grown up, except for a few of us who still can't live without our on-the-road banter, our many jokes and our just good old-fashioned camaraderie. Bill had a wonderful sense of humour. His childlike sense of fun shone through every day. For me, he was like a big brother who liked to torment me, and I really loved every minute of it. But there was another beautiful side to Billy. At the drop of a hat, he would help fellow performers and musicians in need. You didn't have to ask him twice. There were many charity shows, many benefit shows, many acts of kindness. Like the time on tour he helped Max Merritt. We all know Max, such a shy, reserved kind of person, isn't he? You know? You see, I used to sit at the front of the bus every day and knit away the hours between towns. Knit, 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 knit. Billy would say, "Hey, Amphlett, you're starting to look like Madame Defarge." At the time, I was knitting a black mohair jumper for my husband. Always the ideas man. Billy came to me and said, "I want to help Max and you can help me." Paddy, you see, when Max is overseas, which is often, he becomes really, really homesick. He really misses Australia. Do you think when you've finished that jumper, do you think you could knit something for Max? Perhaps a little memento of Australia? I thought, oh, that's a nice idea of Billy's. Really lovely. So I had some wool left over and I knitted him a lovely little map of Tasmania. What a lovely idea of Billy's. Always willing to help his friends. There was Billy the performer, Billy the larrikin, Billy the irreverent larrikin, Billy the very loving family man. You only had to mention his wife and daughters and you'd get half an hour out of Billy. He was a real good family man. He was a really great Australian, a truly great Australian. I'm always going to remember Billy as that naughty little kid who never grew up, and I'll always love him too. This little song, it's only a baby song, is for Billy. We lost the sunshine and roses, we lost the heavens of blue, we lost the beautiful rainbow, we lost the morning dew, we lost the angel who gave us sunshine the whole winter through. We lost the gladness that turned into sadness when I lost you. Billy.
Clap your hands. Clap your hands. Clap your hands. Most people I know think that I'm crazy. I know at times I act a little hazy, but if that's my way, and you should know it, then in every way, help me to show it. if you know the words to this song. All right, your turn. Here we go. Everybody. Here we go. Ooh, yeah, yeah. Most people I know think that I'm crazy. I know at times I act a little hazy. If that's my way, you should know.
Extraordinary. Extraordinary. His sad and untimely death makes us all think, doesn't it? One of the psalmists says, teach us, God, to number our days, that we may apply our hearts to wisdom. Because none of us know when our time's up. None of us know. And all of us, each one of us, tries to make sense of life on earth today. And often, really, we don't quite know what to believe at all. But one thing we all believe in is love. That's one thing we all believe in. One thing we all need is love. One thing we all recognise is love. And God knows we suffer heaps when we don't get it, or we don't get enough of it. And Billy Thorpe gave and shared and received more of that love than a great number of us. And yet, from what I can see, he never abused it. As the great Apostle Paul said, without love, I am nothing. And you can see, he was much more than nothing. And if love alone could bring us all back to physical life, Billy would be jumping around on this stage today with that amazing look on his face where he's touched something. But he's moved on. He's moved on to that sacred space where love and where the music comes from. Have you ever wondered, just looking at his face and the people there, where does the music come from? Just where does it come from? Do we ourselves, each one of us, create the music in our brains? Or does it evolve in some mysterious place some of us can tap into and become channels for this music? Is that where it comes from? None of us know, but I think we all sense it must be a sacred place. Must be a sacred place the music comes from, because like love, music can heal. It can't cure, but it can heal. And when we go to wherever we go to, and when we pass on, the only real meaningful thing we can leave behind on this earth is love. And that, from what I can see here, and from what I know, Billy Thorpe has left in abundance. Rock and rollers are known to have big hearts, buckets of passion, be overly generous, and to be lovers of life. And they care about the world and its people in it. So when you leave today, when each one of you leave today, each one of you take with you the love and the energy you've received today and use it to do your bit to make the world a better place. If you do just a little bit to brighten the darkness in this pretty grey old world out there, you'll ensure that Billy, his love and his music will live forever. And maybe we can all share in the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. So God bless Billy, and may God hold you all in the palm of his hand. Amen.
Usual hang-ups, everybody's enjoying it. Yeah. There's not the usual hang-ups, you know, everybody's getting busted. There's also nothing personal.
Ladies and gentlemen, one of Billy's lifelong friends, Max Merritt.
I see it written in your eyes, and you confirm it with your lies. Though the web you weave can hold me, I would rather that you told me where you wanna be. Whoa, you're slipping away from me. Whoa, you're slipping away from me, and it's breaking me in two, watching you slipping away. Said it's breaking me in two, watching you slipping away. How about we do it one more time for Billy? I want to hear you. You sing along with me? Come on. Baby, I've been watching you. Come on. Watching everything you do. And I just can't help but feeling someone else is stealing you away from me. You're away from me. Whoa, you're slipping away from me. And it's breaking me in two, watching you slipping away. Said it's breaking me in two, watching you slipping away. Oh, it's breaking me in two, watching you slipping away. I love you, Billy. I love you.
At the Byron Bay Blues Festival, I got the opportunity to play blues harp with Billy Thorpe and the Sunbury Aztecs. It was the thrill of a lifetime. Billy said to me afterwards, what did it feel like being up there, standing up there with all that stack of marshals behind you and the band going full bore? I said, Billy, I tell you what it felt like. It felt like it was a little bulldog on the front of a Mack truck.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jack Thompson.
Yeah, well, it did. It really did feel like that. Let me tell you what happened. He had invited me. We'd played some jam at home. I was not a professional musician, but we jammed. And he said, you come up to the Blues Festival, you can play with me. I thought, great, great. I get up there, and he says, just bring a G harp. That's all you need is a G harp. I get up there, I got the G harp. I'm sitting on the side, waiting for him. I guess everyone here has been to a Billy Thorpe concert. It starts loud, and then it gets louder, and then it gets more passionate, and all you guys join in. Hey, yeah, Billy, yeah. I'm sitting there waiting for him to call me on. And it gets to the third number. I don't want this to happen. And it goes through the whole show. I thought, thank God he's not going to call me on. He's let me off the hook. And after the screams have brought an encore, Billy comes on and says, I have a friend here who's going to play with me. Thanks, Bill. It was like artistic free fall. I first met Billy in 1963 at Surf City. The father of my oldest son, Patrick, my ex, and I won the stomp competition in Surf City. And this young fella playing guitar handed me £3 and free tickets to the next dance. And then I didn't meet him again for many, many years. And I got a letter from a guy who I had met him again in LA. The consulate there held parties for Australian expats, and we'd gather around, and this is Billy Thorpe. Billy Thorpe. All right, I remember. Most people don't think Sunbury, yeah. Right, and we talked away. It was friendly, but it was party talk. And then I got a letter out of the blue. And this extraordinarily witty, literate, and respectful letter invited me to launch his book. And he had sent the book and said in the letter that, of course, I would not expect you to launch it without you first read it. I read it, and it was fantastic. It was beautifully written. It was witty. It was a fantastic tale of a fantastic time and the beginning of a life that he shared with all of us as an entertainer, but also as a friend. I said I would launch the book, and the next thing I know, I've got a room in the Siebel Townhouse, and he's also in the Siebel Townhouse in a different room. And you know, when you're asked to launch a book, and then you read the book, and you've read the book, And it's like Hunter S. Thompson saying, will you come and launch a book for me? You got to live up to this. And so I'm there in the room. Drinkies, couple of drinkies, and I call Billy, and I say, Billy, it's Jack here. Oh, good, come on down. No, I think you better come up here, I said. You know. He came up there, drinkies. Oh, God, yes, the wall. And I feel the same way, too. Exactly. And the whole rock and roll history, yes. And we get in the car. And we're still going, I get outside the hotel. And one of those rare moments, anyone who knows him, one of those rare moments, he looked at me with slight misgiving. He looked at me. And he said later, I knew I wasn't in great shape myself. And he looked at me and I said, it's showtime, Bill. And it was. And it went on being showtime for me and Bill and his family. He gave me what he gave all of us, his love. He had more respect for me than I had for myself. He taught me to respect myself. I know what he leaves for all of us. He leaves a life filled with the magic that he brought to us. Unfortunately for us, a lot of it's recorded, and what isn't recorded is in our hearts. But deep in my heart, a desolate howl still echoes. We have lost a loved one. We used to joke about how I'd go ahead to clear the way and tell them you weren't such a bad guy after all that shit. Tell them we're coming on, Bill.
There was always a drama. There'd always be a drama at a gig somewhere because of the volume. And he used to thrive on it. He'd go out of his way. If someone said turn down, he'd turn up. It was just ridiculous, but it was fun.
Let 'em dance. Hey! Late at night while you're sleeping, boys, and now they come creeping around. Whoa. Hey! This is my fucking show. Let 'em dance. All right?
Ladies and gentlemen, Billy's manager and lifetime friend, Michael Chug.
I went up to the security at 7 o'clock. I said, listen, there won't be a person under 40 here. Let them dance. It'll be something they haven't done for years. Halfway through the first half, John Pope or Skullman or Amanda or someone said to me, they're stopping them dancing. I looked at my watch and I said, in 7 minutes, they're going to get told their life story. It's like, Jack, you stole my story. I was going to do you and Billy. No one knows that you rolled out of... Jack couldn't talk. Billy rang me and said, we're in deep shit. And all the way to the mansion... I was overseas, unfortunately, because I really wanted to be there, because the books were so important to us, because we were so angry and pissed off that our history of how great Australian music was not being recorded. And Billy rang me and said, oh, Jack's so fucked. I said, Billy, he's an actor. And sure enough, as he did, he said, show must go on, jumped out of that cab, walked like someone like the Reverend Bill Cruz would. Walked up on that stage and did the most, I wasn't there, did the most magnificent speech, and then fell down the stairs and said, how was that, Billy? But you know, to stand here and follow such people, tastemakers, like Brian, Jack and George, who stood up for what they believed in, and that was what Billy Thorpe was all about, and that's what I'm so proud of my friend. Long way to the top. Billy and I were rung up and said, we're going to make an hour show called Long Way to the Top. So we were the first interviews. I walked in at 9 a.m. and left at midday. Billy walked in at 1 o'clock and left at 10 o'clock that night. The next day, Long Way to the Top turned into a 6-part series. Took 2 years to produce, and they still missed a lot of great people out. And that was why Love in the Air was made, to make up to those people. It took 2 years for them to produce it. The reaction along the top turned millions of Australians onto their musical heritage and a history that no one knew about. Like earlier, someone said, who's Billy Thorpe, who's Rolling Stones? And that was one of Billy and my real passions, that we get our history down. And yet had a few potted, safe biographies that helped, da-da-da-da-da. Billy was so passionate about taking Long Way to the Top on the road. He drove me crazy for a year. The ideas were flowing. The abuse was flowing. The money was flowing. And we never told him that 6 months into that year, Amanda Pellman and I were quietly working out a tour, a lineup, and making sure it wouldn't send me and Kevin Jacobson broke. Well, yeah, right. When we told Bill it was on, we were caught up in a whirlwind that created an amazing showcase of the artists that paved the way for Australian music to come. 18 shows, 26 artists, 250,000 punters, and the all-night parties. Oh my God, that's a whole book. We were at the Hilton Hotel in Melbourne for a week, and all the bar staff were so exhausted that on the last day we were told the bar wouldn't be open that night. So we took a collection, raised a $1,000 tip and said, open the bar, baby. It was incredible. The way he respected and loved the other artists on the show, and every night he would go around, he'd work them all up, and he'd steal Cold Joy's bottle of Jack Daniels, which Colin had hidden at the bottom of the bag. And Stevie Wright, you know, we discussed the lineup and we all knew we needed Stevie Wright. And we all knew that it was going to be really hard, and Stevie needed love and care and attention because of whatever. And every night he'd go around the Coles dressing room, and there'd be 3 or 4 of them in there having a quiet drink. Go around to Judy and Dinah and the girls and say, "Come on, Stevie's on." And they'd all sit on the stairs and they'd clap and they'd sing. And it was magnificent. I grew up loving Billy Thorpe and Max Merritt. But the easy beats what people don't understand is that what happened with Billy Thorpe and the first time I saw him I was 17. Now, Mark Pope's going to flash something up on the screen when I get over the top and boring, but I remember Launceston Albert Hall, 17, 15, whatever. I was torn between being a sporting announcer, which got cut short later anyway, and a rock person. And Billy Thorpe absolutely nailed me. The Aztecs, the energy, the love, the passion. It was like, my God, this is for me. And 8 weeks later, this next caravan came through. Because in those days, rock and roll began at the end of vaudeville and carnivals, and everybody used to get paid nothing and all that. And the next package came through, and this backing band opened the second half. And I went, oh my God, it's another one. And I was hooked forever. Billy stole his band, made them the second Aztecs, but Max Merritt, they've been part of my life since I was 15 years old. And I went over to the hotel over the road before earlier, and Max was having a beer. I said, "What's that?" He said, "It's my second beer." I said, "Max, I'm going to have one beer with you. If you have another drink, I'm going to kill you." Anyway, I'm getting off the track. I mean, I could stand here for 20 hours and just do it. It's incredible. What a ride. Oh, they haven't done it already. Oh. I haven't even started, Popey. Piss off. Anyway, a vision of Billy's Long Way to the Top was shared by Amanda Pellman and I and all the acts that came out there. And that, again, I believe, sparked another whole thing in Australian rock. Just like when I was lucky enough to be the poster boy at Consolidated Rock in Melbourne and watched Billy, the Aztecs, and Michael Browning plan and meticulously, with Michael Gudinski's odd yelled advice, planned and meticulously took Australian rock and roll to another place. The Sunbury and what it meant and what it did. Out the front, you had 30,000 people yelling out "Suck more piss," and backstage was like a hippie festival 5 years ago. It was amazing. Pub rock, the White Horse Hotel in Nunawading, the Village Green. Billy's getting paid a fee. The pubs are making thousands on the bars. And Billy said, "That's it. From now on, I want the door." Billy Thorpe started the door deal. I'm totally confused here, but I'm getting there. Yeah. Anyway, the emails, when we put them into books, are going to be nearly as high as Mount Kosciuszko, Brian. The messages have been amazing. And I just want to read a couple of things that were sent by a couple of people that he loves so much. And the first one is from Mundawoy Yunupingu, who Jack and Lee and me and my young children and Bill and Lynn went to the Gama Festival up in the Gulf of Carpentaria. And I mean, Jack got signed up as an elder and got tattooed. My young son was taken out into the bush and laid in a charcoal old fire and painted up, and then danced behind this 6-foot Aboriginal dancer. It was incredible. And Billy and Mundawoy just fell in love. They made an amazing thing called Oh My Country, which unfortunately got lost in the Olympic and the Paralympic thing. But when I came home from Atlanta with Yossi Indy, I was determined to make sure that the Sydney Paralympics were the first sold out, opening, closing, and everybody, like Billy, Brian, Jack, everybody joined in. And I just want to read what Mundawoy has to say. Thorpe came along at the right time, with the right attitude. In the rock and roll world, he made it possible for people to understand what rock and roll stood for, and also to understand what Indigenous Australians stood for and needed. When Thorpe came to the Garma Festival, he loved it and what it stood for, and he always supported every move Yolngu needed to make towards positive change. He was a good bloke with a good heart and a good mind. Yossi Indy will miss him. Billy said to me, he was up in Gove recording, and he came home and he said to me, Chuggy, this song needed a sweet choir. And he said, Mundawoy, we need a sweet choir. And Mundawoy went, don't worry, Thorpe, we'll get it together. 2 hours later, he came back with these 3 young Aboriginal children with holes in their clothes and a bit of snot here and there. Billy told them what to do. And Billy said, Chuggy, you got no idea. First run through, it was like angels. And Billy he just loved everybody. He loved new things. He loved everything. And, of course, I'm not sure, but the love affair between Angry Anderson and Billy Thorpe was amazing. I'm not sure if Billy loved Angry because he was shorter than him or whatever. But Angry, who's in Germany, has sent this beautiful poem. The rooms of our morning are darker, now that the light has gone from your face. But the heavens will shine more brightly as another star heads homeward to find its resting place. Billy Thorpe, from the day I met him, always was good to me. When I was in the middle of self-doubt and a few $1 million in debt now and then, and was leaving my great friend and partner after 25 years, I was filled with self-doubt and self-belief. And I got to tell you, he just rode my ass like you wouldn't believe. Chuggy, you're better than them all. You're one of the best in the world. Fuck them. Get on with it. Shared pain. We shared pain. We shared laughter. We shared triumph. We had very few failures. I was blessed at 15 when I saw Billy Thorpe live. And the last 4 days, from the moment I spoke to Lynn at 5:30 in the morning and heard Amanda Pellman's message in tears that she was on a 6 a.m. flight. Thank God, I said. What am I going to do? And it's been an amazing trip. It's been 108 hours. And I've got to say, it'll come later, but everybody who stepped up to the plate to get involved all did it because somewhere down the road, way back, or only a couple of years ago, Billy touched their hearts. And he made them . He made everybody. I mean, the love he gave, he couldn't believe after he'd been back a year or so that he created pub rock. He paved the way for people. Just after he left Australia, pissed off because he felt our industry wasn't moving, that they were comfortable in their groove, pub rock exploded. Mark Pope, a young kid who saw his first show, John Woodruff, Rod Willis started Dirty Paul. All of a sudden, it exploded. Everybody took what Billy had done and took it somewhere else. And that's been how it is all the time. And I could talk here and tell you things you'll never know, but I just want to say, on behalf of his family, the outpourings that we have received and the love we have received from all over Australia is stunning. Billy and I knew it was getting hot, but I've got to tell you, even he didn't know how fucking hot it was going to get. And I thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And I just want to finish. I accidentally found an email that was about 2 months old that Billy had written to a friend of his and the families of mine. And the last line said, Tangier's nearly finished and I'm ready for another shot at the title. Well, after the last 4 days, many of us already knew this. He never lost the title and he never fucking will. Have a safe journey, mate, and don't be too hard on Elvis, Lennon and Hendrix when you tell them you've arrived to take over the band.
Ladies and gentlemen, Olivia Newton-John.
I'm so honoured to be here for Billy. He was such a good friend to me. And I'm here because I love him and Lynn and Rusty and Lauren and send my love to you guys. And this song here is really famous for, and I'll do my best to get through it. You dare to dream really do come true. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind.
Now this is the last show. Now this is the last show. It's happy and it's sad. This has been... I can't speak. It's been the best fucking thing I've ever done.
As he would have wanted, a big Billy finish. Ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding as we farewell Billy Thorpe. Ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding as we farewell Billy Thorpe.
Well, Lynn, Lauren and Rusty, this is for you. We've kind of laughed and cried and said goodbye, but we can only begin to imagine the depth of the pain you feel. And everyone here, all of us, everybody here loves you and wants you to know we're there for you. And we know it's going to be tough, but we're there. And we want to thank the world for Billy and his family, and may God bless you guys, and may your lives be filled with the peace and the love that he's left with all of us. Amen. Thank you, everybody.
Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby. And I wake up where the clouds are far behind me. Where troubles melt like lemon drops